Hello and welcome back to That Writer Guy podcast. I am your host, Lyman Raitt, and in the last episode we started to talk about world building and some basic general information about what it is, why it's important, and always ways to make it truly yours. And in this episode, it is part 2 of world building, and I'm going to dive into the nuances of the geography of your world. This is as important as the characters and everything else in the world you are creating, because without it, it is really hard to know where people or animals or, well, really anything for that matter is going. And world building geography is a world means where the lands go, the water, what is in those places, and everything you might see if you are traveling. From hills, trees, lakes, rivers, oceans, and anything else that can be found, geography of your world is important. Your characters and your readers will need to know what the characters are doing, and by doing I mean not just action or speaking, but where they are going. I'm going to break down this episode into a few different sections, north, east, south, and west, and that is the first section we will discuss. Truth be told, you can have your lands and your geography however you want it to be. If you have floating mountains and things in space, cool. If you have a subterranean or subterranean that is all underground and real fancy, hey, rock it and keep going. But they both will have some kind of geography. All geography usually starts with compass directions, and by that I mean north, east, south, and west. Now, when I was growing up, I was taught how to know these directions by this little saying: never eat sour wheat. It's cereal, it's a silly thing, it's weird, it's an odd way to learn it, but hey, it worked, and I still remember that to this day. When building your world and your map and where things are going, remember your compass. North usually has colder things such as snow and more harsh conditions. South usually has warmer climates, tropics, and even sand. East and west can be a mix of these, but you get the picture. Notice when I said the world, usually when describing north and south. I did that because in your world, and you can invert things to really make things different. But if you do, I will warn you that it can be a potential turnoff for readers unless you explain it very well. The natural gravitational compass that is inside us tells us if we look north, south, east, or west, that certain things can happen there. Depending on the continent or country you are in, this can be many things. But typically when north is cold, south is warm, west and east can be anything. From there, when you decide what you want, make sure that you then look at the next thing: mountains, hills, forests, flatlands, and other land types. If your idea is to have a place that has nothing but flatland, then this is something super simple for you. If your idea is to model something similar to Earth, then you need to figure out where things are going, where things are going to go where, and be prepared to answer why if someone asks. When I created my world for my first fantasy series, which I'm still working on, I wanted to have it with valleys, mountains, hills, forests, flatlands, swamplands, oceans, and I will say it was a lot of fun, but a lot of work. But Lyman, you might be saying, how is it going to be a lot of work when you can literally just say mountains go here, hills here, flatland and prairies here, here, and here, and do a bit more and you're finished? Well, because if you really make your world work in favor when you're writing, you need to work out the world you are creating. When you have mountains, you need to check where you are going to place cities and roads and other navigational tools that your characters might need and use. A mountain system will usually have runoff, which means water will have to go somewhere if the mountains get snow. If there's a large flatland right below the mountains, the possibility of it flooding needs to be understood and accepted and added into your writing if it fits the theme. Does this mean you can't just throw things out there and hope they stick and look good, then start writing? Sure. If you want to do that, go for it. I'm not going to tell you no, but I will say it might find yourself later on trying to rework some things instead of focusing on just the writing and having to go back in and refix some of your geography and some of those aspects later on down the road. Do the work now to save you the hassle later. Forest, tree clusters, wooded areas are something else to consider. Again, if you want your world to reflect, say, a desert and rock formations and the like, then skip this entirely. But for the most, when world building, you will have trees, wooded areas, and they have a life force of their own. I'll get to this in a moment, however. Depending on the layout of your world, having trees in proper spots makes more sense than just putting them wherever. Sure, a few tree clusters happen when, they say, a group of horsemen are riding through a large area that's mostly void of trees. Make sure that the trees and wooded areas are included. You will thank yourself, and so will your characters, when you can include these in action or overall writing. The next step is the type of lands. There are many types of lands that can be included. Swampland, ocean, rivers, deserts, tropical, rainforest, lush green pastures and open spaces, mountains and rocky outcrops, and there are many more I'm sure I haven't mentioned. Find out which ones you believe will work for you in your story or even in your series if you're making one, and flesh them out. By this I mean literally make a map on a table, have pieces of paper with the words of the lands or types of lands you want to use, then start playing with them like they're puzzle pieces. See which ones look right to you, which ones don't, then switch them up. Keep doing this until you feel you finally have a combination that you like. I chose for one series 7 lands: mountains, forests, flatlands, swamplands, hilly plains, desert, or arid, and a mix of hill, flatland, and mountain. Do not be afraid to mix it up or combine some of them. When you finally have these down, the final part are bodies of water to include, such as streams, rivers, ponds, lakes, and oceans. Make sure that you do the research on which way the water will run. No, not all rivers run north to south as most would think because of gravitational pull. Some rivers run due south to north. It does happen. Don't believe me? Look it up. Let me know what you find. I'm curious. It would be impossible to not have some bodies of water, especially if you have snow and mountains. Snow runoff will happen when the snow melts, and it has to go somewhere. Plus, with the larger bodies of water, such as large rivers, big lakes, and oceans, this can give you additional means for agriculture and travel. These will all help you with creating a great basis of geography for your world that you are building, and will allow you to progress to the next step and beyond. Without the basics down, your world will not function properly, and your characters will not either. Not to mention, writing your world through the eyes of the characters and keeping the story going will prove to be a challenge, if not derail you possibly for an entire duration of your story. From the placing of mountains and other geographical natural objects to your navigational compass to waters and types of lands, your world is yours to create. Be unique as you want, but keep in mind whatever you create must be something the reader will be able to recreate in their minds while reading. If it's too confusing for them, that can put them off and possibly make them even stop reading entirely. And that is everything I have for this portion of world building. Follow me up on the next episode where I go into part 3 of the world building tour, where I dive into the real fun world of animals, beasts, creatures, and more. I thank you for listening to That Writer Guy podcast, and until the next episode, keep the words flowing, the ideas going, and happy writing.